to talk about security, especially violent. When it's raised into violence. But I must first congratulate the police for their reaction in apprehending the perpetrators of this crime, and for handling it so far. But I don't want to use that but we don't want to treat this case as it's the only form of crime happening in the country, or treat it in a manner that we just clap and move on. And we want to critically, look into it to find the root causes, to find the pull and the push of sending young Gambians to be committing such hideous crimes. If we want to fight crime, we have to fight the root causes of crime. And we have to look at it in that manner. I applaud the IGP coming out again to speak to people in that press conference. And but I might raise that they need to take the leadership to create the environment where the police are trusted, especially when it comes to information sharing. And we have seen in many instances they share information that is inaccurate. And once the police lose the trust and confidence from the public, their work would be impossible to achieve, which would be a disaster for us citizens or a country as a whole. And give an instance, even in this press conference, where he is trying to push to defend by saying that even in the previous regime, you see, it's even wrong to associate the previous regime as a regime that have achieved security. We all know why. We all know that people were insecure unless you were not a victim or your family was not a victim. But to push to say that even the Central Bank of the Gambia was attacked, and the distance between the Central Bank and the State House was very close. For the Inspector General, full knowing that the criminal elements that attacked the Central Bank of the Gambia were not civilians, were not actors from any other place, but they were state actors themselves. They came out from the same State House to have the daring to attack the Central Bank. And it was not the Central Bank per se. It was a locker unit, what do you call it? A storage unit belonging to the dictator. And people that attacked the storage unit knew what they were looking for. And for them to have an audacity to attack the storage unit, knowing that they were armed security at the Central Bank, tells you their professionalism and their involvement in within the security apparatus. It was dishonest or uncalled for the Inspector General of Police to try to push that to make a case for the situation we face. As I always said, that we are here. And I can say for most people in the media are here to support the police to do the right thing. Because the police serve us, the police are protecting us, and the police are creating the environment that is conducive for investment and the progress of that nation. But wherever we find them wanting, it is again our responsibility to hold them to account, and should be critical for that matter, but again to be very sensitive in certain areas. That's why I've waited for a matter of days before coming to react directly to what was happening, until they confirm they apprehend the network of criminals before coming to speak in the open. Because I see the need to be truthful. I see the need to be critical in order to support the police and support this society in order for us to work together and fight crime. Crime cannot be fought by the police alone. They have to be supported. And that support, it's part of it is to be critical and is part of exchanging ideas and others. May I first, in fact, say this. Not everything we do to support the police we advocate on platforms. No. I will explain that we held, if I said we, in the diaspora here, a civil society organization have organized and invited so many former members of the security forces and created a forum where we brainstormed and developed policies, developed ideas, developed strategies on how to implement actually to support the police to fight or to keep the country secure. And all that was done without coming out in the media to talk about it. It's gone over 2 years now since we submitted the report or the work we did with the police. And some of the members of that group, one of them was Siaka Sonko, who later became, that was before he became the Minister of Interior. The other member is right now actively serving at a very senior position at the police. Why am I saying this? It's just to so that people will concentrate to understand. It's order to create a conducive, progressive environment to discuss this matter. That we are not here to criticize the police for the sake of it, or to ridicule them, or anything else. Just to emphasize that we are partners, and we are responsible partners. We have done so much behind the scenes, and we continue to support giving our service and sharing anything we think it's worth sharing with the police in order to fight the crimes in the country. And we do so when we come on platforms to share need-to-know basis, wherever we feel that if we share certain information we have would jeopardize police operations, we will hold up and try and share it directly to people concerned, not to the public. And let's move on. What we are witnessing now is the failure of security reforms. What we are facing now is the failure of the criminal justice system's reforms. This is how I want to look at this episode. It's not just to rush in a segment of just talking about these perpetrators of this crime and they apprehended and finished. No. There are so many other crimes happening, and there are crimes feeding into other crimes. And I don't want to sound sympathetic, but I will still want to be heard with an empathetic ear to say that these criminals are victims of society themselves. Yes, and we'll get to that. We'll get to that. It's our responsibility to ensure that they are taken through the justice system and make sure they are sent to correction facilities where when they come out, they will act as better citizens. The failure of the security sector can be seen in the effectiveness of the police in many areas that allow this crime to happen or are delayed in ensuring these crimes are solved when they happen. And if I say this, it's a criticism to the system itself, but it's not a criticism to individual police officers, because of collectively, the police, in the biggest of percentages you can think of, they are doing a brilliant job for the conditions that they had to face and for the lack of support they are facing right now. What I am criticizing much is the leadership, the governance structure itself, and that starts with the political will and the political governance to the operational governance from the IGP and around that environment. And when we come out to say that, the failure of the criminal justice system, we will understand that we cannot attain a safe environment or a safe country, a society, if we have a failed criminal justice system. And the police cannot achieve their objectives if the criminal justice system does not complement their work. And when we look into the program, the deliberation itself, these points would be identified as we move. We'll agree that there are various crimes. When we talk about crimes, in most senses, as humans, we are very selective. We talk about crimes that we feel to have affected us directly, impacted us indirectly, or immediately. Whilst there are other crimes that are affecting us, but they are not directly or immediately being affected. When your house is burgled now, all you think of criminals will be those people that burgled you. You don't think of the root causes of your burgling. You don't know. It's human nature. But when an institution is tasked to look in totality after our security, when they look into things, they should not only look at the immediate surrounding or what actually just is making the headlines or impacting onto their image. They should study the crime and evaluate the entire situation in order to develop, to understand. Let's look at some of these crimes. And we'll see how some of these crimes fit into other, and we'll identify root causes of these crimes. Robbery, violent robbery, robbery or violent robbery, we can say it in any way, or what some people term breaking and entering. You know, when criminals realize that this place is vacant, it's an opportunity, there's no one in there, there's no alarms, there's nothing to stop me apart from the infrastructure itself, the door or the window. Or knowing that the people in there are vulnerable, there are women, children, or families that were not able to that were not able to stop us once we cross over from to breaking through the door or the window. Breaking and entering. It's one of the crimes. But that's where robbery happened, where people would break in and enter in the intention of harming anyone who would want to stop them. The forced breaking and entering would be in a sense that when they are, when the household is alerted, they run away. But the others would stand their ground and inflict pain and torture and everything, and in fact, to take anything they want. There is crime that are cases of cause for different reasons, where people's lives are taken. People are murdered for crime of passion, for domestic, for other crimes that are not related in a sense of it's about taking something that they own or taking away something, but it's to cover up for something or been angry or whatever it is, and they are killed. And we have so much of that right now. Always we are hearing, and there are some cases we call that, oh, he committed suicide, or she committed suicide. Probably not. Probably they are killed and staged as a suicide. But all these crimes are needed to be investigated and then needed to be dealt with. And violence, robbery to the sense of not only waiting for you in the streets to rob you of your belongings, whatever you have, your phone, your watch, or whatever, street robbery, or the armed robbery that we have seen, where weapons or sophisticated weapons as pistols and others are used to come in broad daylight, take over the premises and take and go. These things are happening. But what you don't hear reported is white-collar crime, corruption, fraud, which some sophisticated people do, that people that we entrust with our resources, people that we mandated to manage our resources, that they were committing every day, every minute on us, which affect us far heavier than, in fact, an instant of someone breaking in our houses. Why? White-collar crime gets to what? Gets to our budget, where our health service will be completely, as we are witnessing now, collapsed. Gets into the budget, where our education system is completely made redundant. Get to the budget so that even our police would not have what they need to fight criminals. Get into, the other services that need to correct, even to the prison service and other services that need to prevent young children, delinquent children become criminals. And we can go on and go on and go on. But do we prioritize fighting that crime? No. And we find out that most of these crimes we are crying out today are fed by the white-collar crime. It's corruption. The other crime is drug trafficking. Well, we'll look at putting a microscope later down. Understand what happens when people become addicted. But we have seen how the real traffickers, how they are handled, or how the failure of arresting the rampant trafficking of drugs turning the country into a narco state. That feeds down to all the other crimes that we feared, even domestic crimes, drugs. But the main people that supports or enable this is the very senior echelon of power. As I keep on saying, first thing what drug traffickers do is to buy into political power. And now we have seen the evidence in Sierra Leone, where the president's first daughter is engaged or married or whatever you call it, to one of the biggest drug cartel members from Holland. And that person moved his operation from Turkey to Sierra Leone. And I tell you, the same person network is present in the Gambia. Not even worse, is present in the Gambia. People that remember the case of that boat that was at Denton Bridge called Dubai Boats or Dubai whatever it is. And the boat was apprehended by the Senegalese in the high seas, trying to transfer drugs. Yes, it's part of that cartel. It's part of that cartel. They have their representative in the country who are Gambians, who are very close to power, who are very close to politicians and very close to senior security agents. Now, if we look at all these crimes, are we fighting them? Or are we just waiting for the uproar? Then the police will react to that. Until we look at all this crime in totality and look at the root causes and try to fight all this crime, we are just firefighting. We are not fighting crime. We are fighting the symptoms of crime. The real criminals are those people, operating this big, and the white collar crime, the drug trafficking, and everything else feeding to the youths of our country. In fighting all these crimes, if you look at them in isolation, you will never be successful. You will never be successful. You have to zero approach in fighting corruption first. But we see that the president is not interested in fighting corruption. And all is feeding to, as I said, the crimes that are happening. And when we put these criminals arrested in the microscope, we'll understand where it is. The failure of the security sector reform, is the failure of governance. The failure of criminal justice system is a failure of governance. And as we said, you see the instances where traffickers. Let me touch on this. Recently, there's a case, something Mr. Njai was arrested at the airport with so much of ecstasy and was fined 500,000 without any prison term. And many people justified also say that because of the law state that it's a controlled drug. But who make the laws? Who make the laws? If the police were concerned or security sector were concerned, that's why I said the security sector reform cannot go, it have to go hand in hand with the criminal justice system. Why didn't we realize the danger? When did we realize the danger of this crime, this drug getting into? Because these drugs are targeting the youths. And when they become addicted in this, the synthetic drugs, that's what get them to look for the money and other things and their wild behaviors and orders and orders. Why did they ask for the amendment of laws? To fit purpose so that crime can be fought? No. But again, to give that excuse again is just the collective amnesia we do have as Gambians. I can name you the case at Jimpex, where a vehicle was impounded, and that vehicle was owned by a Senegalese and had almost 30 blocks of cocaine, over 30 kilos of cocaine. The case was swiftly dealt with at the magistrate courts with no custodian sentence, but a fine and gone. Just think about this. Swiftly dealt with. There was this case in Serekunda where the Guinea-Bissau nationals were arrested with so much of cocaine, over 30 kilos of cocaine, whatever it is. Google it. Google it, simple. Just put Bissau nationals. If you had time, I could have pulled it out. Put the Senegalese national at Jimpex, if you can't remember this. The Guinea-Bissau nationals were dealt with swiftly and gone. Before that, 2 years ago, when those trucks were impounded, hashish and many other things owned by Mauritanian and others, and it was bound to Mali. Guess what? It never seen a day in court. Remember when drugs were found by laborers at the port authority, concealed in bags of sugar, owned by some Lebanese business people. They never seen a day in court. They never spent 24 hours in the police custody. And many others. Banta Keita was left to leave the country. Banta Keita lives in Senegal, is reachable. Many security forces, senior security, this thing know about him because they are still benefiting from whatever he makes. The wife is in the Gambia looking after the proceeds of his operation. They're still running in the Gambia. Now, if we don't fight these crimes, we think that it's not feeding into our youths. It's not feeding into our youths. Go to the mental health institutions. Tanka. And others. Do you know how many marriages are break now because of many husbands or wives are addicted to drugs? Many sons have left work or are incapable of keeping work. And their families are suffering, taking care of them, trying to be treated, taking them to Senegal, taking them to other this thing, thinking that they can be treated. Do you know how many young people are addicted? A very senior member of Barrow's coalition, son, who operates businesses in the Gambia, part of it is a nightclub known for dealing drugs, is arrested recently in the United Kingdom for importing drugs from the Gambia. You have not seen the law enforcement officers doing a parallel investigation, and they must have known about this person being arrested. If we are treating crime in this manner, we are not going to solve it. Now we know of the crime happening in the civil service. Almost every sector. The health, anywhere, agriculture, everywhere else. Money is supposed to go into institutions. At the GRA, the revenue collected from our taxes. Go and look at the facilities at the prisons. Go and look at it somewhere else and some other places. But as we said, these are all separate, different crimes. And in order, we put this into the microscope. I have had the IGP mention these young people as hardened criminals. Many people might agree, because of the hideous crime they have committed. But I would say they are wannabe hardened criminals, because the evidence provided will look, I'm not saying might, I emphasize would look, especially to the unprofessional eye, as they are dangerous weapons, no question about that. Acquiring them, it's not difficult. We know all the availability of weapons. And I can tell you, if they were hardened criminals, they would need to go to Senegal to get pistols. And they can even have more vital weapons within the Gambia, delivered to them in the Gambia. If they were hardened criminals. If they were hardened criminals, they would have operated in many ways different. But they are at that entry point of becoming hardened criminals. And we'll look at that into what we learn from what they have committed. If we put the microscope on this, they are bound to be called youths. And that's where it's scary, technical, almost, they are all, Gambians. Technical, all Gambians. Even the person called an Ivorian, Pobab, I don't know how long he lived in the Gambia, but we can say almost all of them are Gambians, which is very scary. The police did not give a lot about what transpired. Some of it, I don't see a reason they could not have given that. But again, if they see it's a need to know base on that, it's just fine. But as I said, we are responsible as well. But certain things we know can be discussed. Just as in any country, when crimes happen, certain things needed to be discussed. Because of, again, we have to remember that the police are avoiding accountability. It's not only it's a need to base or it's going to jeopardize investigation. We will know that difference. But to blanketly say, oh, because of this, because no, I can tell you they are doing it for a purpose. Now, the hardened criminals, they are not. And they might be wannabe hardened criminals. The scary thing, they are Gambians. But let's look at some of the details we have from What's on Gambia on profiling these individuals arrested in this crime. And if you just bear me a minute, let me just see what I have saved from What's on Gambia. And if you if you really understand the fighting crime, you'll be amazed how much what some Gambia is doing in their contribution in fighting this crime. Well, let's start from the police itself. The update the police gave us before this press conference. The police told us on the 9th February. The Gambia Police Force has made significant progress in its investigation into recent armed robberies in Banjul, leading to the arrest of suspects and ongoing effort to bring all perpetrators to justice. A case of armed robbery was reported at the Banjul police station involving an attack at El Halal shop located on Hagen Street, Banjul at approximately 09:08 hours. Now, let me tell you something. You see, that's why I say we have to hold the police accountable. A night of that Friday night, just round the corner, around where the women sell the catfish, the kong, where we saw Adam Abaro buying kong before, a textile store was breaking into, and a lot of textile been taken away in the night. Before the next day that this crime have happened, the armed robbery have happened. The police have not reported that crime yet. And I can tell you there are so many other crimes. Only if it make the media press been break these things that the police would report, but they are happening. Now, the police told us that the complainant Mohammed Sidi Haidara of Birkama stated that he had traveled to Banjul with 1.24 million and 650,000 CFA to purchase goods. Upon arrival, he noticed a BMW ass in color with no number plates parked opposite the shop. Moments after entering, two individuals stormed the shop, held him at gunpoint, and forcefully took the cars before fleeing the scene. This is very important to note. And again, the IGP have raised the issue about driving without number plates. And again, the IGP have done right to say that, hold even senior officers accountable for doing this practice. But I can tell you, politicians more so, or senior civil servants who are doing that because they are using government vehicles to go on errands that they don't want to be found out. This is why they're removing their number plates driving around in town, which is very, very common. And if it's common, what does it do? Undermine the security of the state. Because when criminals do it, then we don't know whether they are criminal or not, because of the practice become normalized. Now, some people have talking about tinted glasses, and I think that needed to be looked into too, whether it does give a blanket this thing for criminals to exploit the loophole. He continued to say, following the robbery, the suspect abandoned the vehicle in Banjul and used a commercial vehicle to escape to Steam Corner, where they divided the stolen money. Okay. Through investigative investigation, police arrested the suspect, Usman Jobate, an Ivorian national resident residing in Busumbala, as apprehended in the early morning of Sunday, February 9, 2025. Officials recovered $70,250 and 465,000 CFA from him. During the interrogation, he admitted to conspiring with Ablai Jallo, a 24-year-old resident of Bara, and use his BMW with registration number BLJ487B to execute the operation. He further disclosed that Amadou Wuri Jallo, a mechanic, was instructed to drive the vehicle out of Banjul for maintenance and reprinting, to conceal evidence. The vehicle was later identified and intercepted at Banjul at around Bond Road, about 2100 hours. Later that day, the police arrested Ablai Jallo along with his girlfriend Bella James at Serakunda Villa at 16:30 GMT. During the search, officers recovered 189,000 from Ablai. Additional, his wave account contained 24,000, but no CFA currency was recovered from him. Now, let's look at that to tell you that they are not hardened criminals. First, and the police had many opportunity to catch these people within the day to commit this crime. And you know, the reason for committing, having the audacity, I ask, why do these criminals have audacity to attack the premises like that? You see, some audacity are not bravery, but it's just stupidity. Because for any hardened criminal to attack a sensitive location, they will be assured an exit strategy that they will not be easily caught. And for people I've spoken to about this, I told them, all this, look, I'm saying this here, and some people here are watching. I told them that this crime is being committed by the same group. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. Any intelligence officer can profile. I am not on the ground, and I said to a friend, I can tell you that these people can be caught very simply. And I said this, I said these people are not credible, they are not professionals. They are not professionals, and they are committing this crime and jumping out of the country just to come back and to redo it. These are all things that were known to me by just watching the scene and taking the reports into consideration. And I said they are not professional, and I'll come to that. Now, any professional will tell you this. You will not purchase a vehicle in your name and go and commit a crime and abandon the vehicle. If you are to commit a crime, that's even people who watch crime, these things will tell you. You make sure the vehicle cannot be traced back to you. One. It cannot be traced back to you. Again, after you abandon the vehicle, you should know that that vehicle is traceable. Because any vehicle, whether they have it's easier, obviously, when they find the number plate. Without the number plate, again, there are many ways to find the owners of a vehicle, especially in the Gambia. They will be traceable. And now, why even commit another person? Just tell you they're not profit to take the vehicle, thinking that changing the color of the vehicle would make the vehicle disappear or the evidence tampered with. And you expect that person at the heat of the crime, to drive through, underestimating the police that they would never put in the checkpoint just for look at this vehicle being moved from Banjul and Island. An island. That tells you they are not professional. They are not hardened criminals. They would have known this. For Ablai Jallow, criminals do often visit the scene of their crime. But I can tell you, criminals often visit the scene of our crime that are psychopaths. Because they take a kick from visiting the crime scene and others. Yes, others do it to listen. They're still listen what is going on, what do they know, what they don't know, what people are saying. What for Ablai to come back to the island and to be lodged in a motel. All-time policing tells you what, when some of this crime happen, where you go, drinking holes, motels, you know, those kind of, you know where they likely go, where they're going to spend the money. Because of, people that commit this sort of crimes, this is what they engage or where we're spending the money. For Ablai to do that, for the vehicle to be moved at that material time, to involve other people in moving that vehicle, prove that this is not hardened criminals. And for committing the crime in that area for that matter. And again, what else do we learn from it? I told people, oh, these people are professional. You don't see the weapons. I know, no. To acquire weapons now doesn't take much. It does not take much. If you have the interest, you can do it. But I said something you have to look at. When they went to the shop in Banjul, if you are a soldier, there's something you call seizing, entering and seizing the scene. When they entered, the minute in fact they entered, they pull out every weapon. They could not control. They did not control the situation. It broke off. Because there's no element of surprise. I wouldn't want to say this, but I can tell you a way that they could have entered there, take all the money, and keep these people away for a long time before someone else found out and they will go. I can tell you that. The way the weapon was producing, someone thought, or the way they pulled the weapon was professional. Never. If the shopkeepers were kind of a bit security aware, even could have disarmed them. Everything from the first guy there and the second guy who went over, they acted immature. Not professionally. But again, even the concealment, the layer of concealment today, you can acquire easily. It's not available to them. And I can tell you, that's the police will not tell you, but these are simple things that video coming out help the police, investigation very fast. That's why we're saying that. That's why we should be very critical. Thank God it's not hardened criminals. Thank God these are not professional criminals. They would never be caught. They would have never been caught. And if you remember, Justice Awaba had security from PIU at her house somewhere in the Como story building. These people, burglars, armed robbers, scale the fence, scale the building, get into the bedroom, and seize control without the guards knowing about it, took gold and stuff and left. Today, they are not being caught because those people were professionals. Those people were professionals. The reason the central bank attacked was not caught. Yaya Jammeh after suspected who they are and dealt with them in a gangster way, but the reason they were not caught by the guards at the central bank is because they were professionals. The case of the Lebanese selling spare parts at Joshua, we all remember around the COVID era, 2 years ago also, that claim that millions been taken, watches and other medicine been taken. They have not been caught because they are professional. And there are so many others we can, if we take our time, we can recall, they were never caught there because of their professional. It will, if professionals commit crimes in that country, it's not going to be solved easily. And I will tell you why. We'll get to that. Now, we should not just take this situation to congratulate. No. We congratulate them for their efforts, but we should be very critical that, look, this is not what, yes, as bad as it is, it's not as if it was done by professional criminals, we would have caught them. Now, the situation from Banjul, the way they caught them by the vehicle, by their picture at these things, and again, it's same to prove that they're not professional. The same thing happened first when it first happened in at the bank. If you look at this, it's the same thing. When they went at the bank, they have some of the workers standing behind them. Even some people were saying that the workers were part of this. Some people thought the bank workers were part of this because they could not believe the way these people approach. A white shirt is the last thing you wear to go to a robbery. They especially broad daylight. A half-tan is last. I know why people think they are concealment, but not if you are going violently to take over. You know, you can wear a suit and everything, probably, put a note to the cashier. We have seen that. FBI files, put a note to the cashier pay you off, jump out, jump into a vehicle, run, and those, we have seen that. But not to say that you are going to take this. It's just proof of their lack of professionalism or being hardened criminals. And they were jumping over. The way one of them was jumping over, straight away I said no. And someone said, you don't think these are soldiers, or you don't think these are ex-soldiers. I said, if they are soldiers or ex-soldiers, they'll be very useless. Even the way they're jumping around is just useless. I said, if you watch hardened criminals, go again, FBI files, first thing they make sure everybody is subdued completely. They have work freely. Seconds they do their deal and make sure they keep them down for a moment before they leave. I say, look at what's happening there. These people are not. I say, as a matter of time, these people are not. And now we learn that, in fact, they left the venue with a taxi. With a taxi driver that if the security, and I'll get to a reason there, they could have been caught then because of they involved a taxi driver. I'll come to that. Based on intelligence, they could have been caught that day. Okay. Now, let's move on to the police update. The police continued to say after the operation, the stolen money was divided among the suspects. So the Jabati admitted entrusting 70,000 for these things to his wife, Tida, whilst giving additional 3,000. In a separate case, authorities in Guinea-Bissau have arrested Ansu Jajo, a Gambian national, in connection with the Access Bank robbery in Bissau. The suspect have been handed over to the Gambian police force through security bilateral. As the police said, I am not going to tell you or speculate how they could have arrested Ansu, but I can tell you is simple old-style policing. We see in our situation, simple old-style policing is still effective, but if it had to involve professionals, simple old-style policing will be involved, but not play a prominent. We will need forensics, we will need a lot of tech to get these people, and this is where we are advocating for the support that the police required in order to be ready and prepared to deal with the eventualities of such. Police have recovered firearms and other incriminating evidence, further strengthening the case against the arrested individuals. Investigators are working to determine whether the suspects are linked to other armed robberies in the country. The public is urged to remain vigilant and report by any suspicious activity. Gambia Police Force commends its officers for their swift and decisive actions and assure the public of the commitment to maintain law and order. Please note that this is an ongoing investigation. For the details. You see, as I said, at that material moment, the police intelligence cannot even ascertain that these things were linked until they caught many of them. And not being certain that these crimes are all linked would have helped in quickly arresting the situation. Then that's exposed a failure of intelligence. First thing that what happened is profile the crime. Profile the crime scene, profile the crime, the people, and anything that happened, I can tell you, will lead you to a lot of saying, okay, because of this will be this, because of this will be this, this will be this, and put everything together and tell you, this is the scenario we're looking at. And take that scenario and communicate that scenario. Communicate that scenario. And that would help. That's how you involve the public to help. Let me give an example. When the vehicle left the scene of crime in Banjul, where did it go? This is one thing the police got as the vehicle, this or that. And I can tell you, prior to the crime, something must have happened. The CCTV would have caught something else. All this put together and communicated. Need to know. I'm not saying say everything. Need to know, because at times you even don't want to lead the public into bringing information that might even jeopardize the investigation or jeopardize the case when it goes to court. Because some of these things will be known to the investigators and to the criminals, but not known to the public. You would have find out that someone would tell you, oh, I just saw, especially if it was professional criminal, that vehicle parked down there. And when they left that vehicle, I saw them jump on a motorbike or jump onto another car, this car or this kind of motorbike, or run into the street. Then that's how you follow the trail. There are so many things you pick from the crime scene and communicate, but we'll get to that. Now, what are we going to look at next is, just as is reported by Watson Gambia, Ansumana Jaju, a former resident of England, was one of the armed robbers who attacked Access Bank and escaped with a significant amount of money. He was arrested this weekend in Bissau and handed over to the authorities. you see, again, this tells a lot. Mr. Barry, I'm very interested in your comments. I'll read it later because once I concentrate, I'll lose focus. Again, when these crimes happen, before knowing much, deducting, I said the people involved. I said the people involved might come from the diaspora. Might come from the diaspora. I didn't say elite. I said the people involved might come from the diaspora for many reasons. Because armed robbery is alien to us, unless you know. I tell you, we had armed robbery in the First Republic. That's another story. We have armed robbery, state armed robbery in the First Republic. That's another history story. But let's just say it's alien to us. It's not something you commonly see. It's not like England and other America and other places. And England to armed robbery, it's common in many sense, but again, to different levels. We have more problems with knife crimes and loaded pistols. Now, I said from the diaspora because of the experience the person might gain and introduce. And again, this is again informing us. I said the criminals on how do we take care of the returnees. We remember there was a case that a returnee that 2 years ago adopted the Gambian taxi driver from Bakau, killed him, mutilated the body, and took the taxi trying to go and sell it. We have to remember these things, and I'll point that out later. He came from that, and he was caught in Guinea-Bissau. It seems that he was a leader. Now, to say, being the leader, he in fact picked up. You see, that's why I said he picked up Gambians that would have been delinquents. Probably they will go to prisons for smoking dope or stealing, breaking and entering somewhere, taking stuff like that, or just been strong-headed. And for him who had the exposure and who should be more intelligent and everything, decided to recruit these people to do this. And you can see he had an exit strategy. He had a way of going somewhere to build up. But again, he might be smart, but he is still not yet a hardened criminal, a career criminal. It would have been far more difficult to be caught in Bissau. But again, because he's not a hardened criminal, again, I'm not going to tell you how difficult would it be if it was done by a hardened criminal or a very intelligent person to be caught in Dakar. Because in order to do that, you have to know how does the police carry out investigations. If the police had the wind of that, I am in Bissau, where are they going to look at and stuff like that. Now, let's look at it continued to say, he came from England. He was in the diaspora and he was caught in Guinea-Bissau. In 2014, the same Asusumana carried out a similar armed robbery at Guarantee Trust Bank. He was arrested and dragged to court. While in remand at Mile 2, he met Usainu Jobate, and together they formed the gang responsible for recent wave of armed robberies. Now, you see, this is where I talk about the failure of our criminal justice system. Prisons should be meant for hardened criminals. But we are running prisons, in fact, as an institution or a factory to groom delinquent youths to become hardened criminals. There's criminal justice system very important here. Many people will go to prison for small things, but because of the prisons are not reformed, the prisons are colonial. I can tell you, go and find out the laws governing the prisons. Some of them are colonial. And we are celebrating 6 years of independence. We don't care. And the environment it creates, with weaker people or weaker youths getting there, they can easily be peer pressured, impressed. And some of the youths who might have certain inclinations can easily be influenced to join into committing more serious violent crimes. Where you have a proper criminal justice system, you will realize that the way first-time offenders are treated, and even to the sentencing of criminals, you have to have an assessment of the criminal or someone that committed a crime at the first time or these things. That's why they are assigned probation officers to assess them, to see how they can be helped. If prison was not or should not be, short-term sentences don't work. It's proven. Short-term sentences don't work. There are so many programs that works, to persuade people away from prison. Repeat offenders, hardened criminals, violent criminals, murderers, corrupt officers should be kept for a long time. They needed to be really punished. The consequences of the crime have to be made apparent to them. That will deter the committing of that crime, or when they put in there, they'll be put away and society will be free from them for a long time, and other people might learn from what happens to hardened criminals. Do you know why people are still very corrupt in institutions? Because nothing comes out of it. The only person they sacrificed, Dr. Banja, what? How many months pardon? Sentence cleared. Not only the time spent taken off, it's like he's free to go and practice whatever he does. That's why you see it. Why serious drug offenders are still piling drugs in our country. Because drug offenders hardly go to prison. They'll go to the criminal justice system and they'll be freed or a very short time. I've not had one yet in Georgia Barrow's time. Not one this thing. Even Jammeh, people who claim to, Jammeh will fight, it's nonsense. What happened to because he was part of it. They were all pardoned. Some of them even didn't attend the court. Rambo and others were paid their ransom and they left town. Their Gambian counterparts been put in prison. The Venezuelan and others, after they got paid this thing, they were pardoned and left. That's why they are committing these crimes. But not first-time offenders, been put in with hardened criminals, with professional criminals, and we expect these people to, what are they learning at the time in prison? Over-congested, nothing to do. They don't learn anything, they are young, they have idle minds. And some of them, the time they get to prisons, something led them to go to prison for the first time. Drugs. And we all know what encourage the kind of drugs. It's not smoking yamba. It's not the smoking of yamba. And now even if it's yamba, it's not the yamba from the country. It's the imported one again. But the synthetic drugs, the cocaine, the others, wrecking the young children, women, men, young boys. And they would end up in prisons. And what do we expect for them to stay? 6 months, 7 months, 1 year, 2 years. Some of them in remand. Before even they get released on a bail, the damage is already done. 2 years in remand, doing nothing, and been mixed up with or hardened criminals to be to these things, and you go out there. These are the people who end up hanging out with. That's why I said the police alone or policing alone cannot solve this. Criminal justice system has to be right. We feel there are young people spending 4 or 5 years in remand, not in prison yet, for their first crime or alleged crime. What does it feel like? Not found guilty after spending 5 years and not compensated, and 5 years in a young man's life. That's a big gap. That's a big gap. That's why if we want to concentrate, the police catch these people and think it's finished, it's done, it's a conveyor belt. the criminal justice system have the right. As I said it here, it's SIFT to deal with cartel members. The SIFT, they take them to court. 3-4 days, they are in court. Guess what? They get bail. Pablo, the guy that had the audacity to call himself Pablo Escobar, he was taking private jets. And you want to tell me our intelligence don't know about him? They will not know if his uncle is close to the president. They will not know about him if his lawyer is the same lawyer the president used. Pablo, having the audacity to call himself Pablo Escobar, and he's into drug trafficking. This guy going into entertainment venues, spending over hundreds of thousands, taking a whole kind of a table, known to the public. You want to tell me the law enforcement don't know about him? Let's move. But according to Watson Gambia, how did he leave Mile 2 after 2024 bank raid? He was on bail. Why was he bail? How long did he spend time to the bail and everything else? Failure of criminal justice again. Right? Sentences have to be. After spending a few years in prison, you see, that's the sad thing, we take it a few years. I mean, now to know that, or now to have more evidence to point that he could have been guilty of what he's accused of. But take it if he was not guilty of a crime been accused of. Take it of any ordinary Gambian spending 2 years or more in prison, or 10 days even. But especially 4 years for a crime you might not have committed. That's why we advocate for this, this criminal justice systems, interventions, reforms. And they said, obviously, our criminal justice system is utterly ineffective, and Sumano was arrested in 2014. His case was repeatedly adjourned. For 8 years, he was going back and forth to court until 2022, when he simply stopped attending hearings and nothing was done. Again, you see the failure of the criminal justice system. For the person to be charged and be going to court for 8 years. You see, this is what we call abuse of the systems. Justice delayed is justice denied. And if we are concentrated in arresting activists, arresting politicians, putting them on bail, them repeatedly, I'm not sure, I think still now Madi Jobat is on bail for not committing a crime. Now, for almost 8 years, someone charged for armed robbery and not been dealt with. You see, again, this is what I said. The police cannot do it all. At times, SIFT justice, not at times, SIFT justice is what people need. And when they put in prison, and lessons can be learned, or they can be reoriented. Some people need reorientation. That's why we cannot have one prison fit for all, one prison and remand fit for all. We should have prisons that our children and women can be sent to be, institutions actually. I don't want to even use the word prison. Where they will await their trial, and when during the course of the trial, interventions would occur by probation officers and social services. You'll be surprised that some of the crimes, I'm not talking about burglary, or even burglary, these people are victims of other crimes as children. You'll be surprised. And early interventions in schools, early interventions in other crimes do help to deter these people become criminals. But we will not invest in criminal justice system, or the investment in criminal justice system will be shared by spending procurement and other things. Do we know how many millions came in? When Batambid was justice minister, transitional justice, money was coming in like hell. What did they do? They start sharing the money. When they come in 2017, they visited the prisons and set everything right. My Fatih and others, where are they today? None of them. And I'm praying to Allah that all these criminals in white-collar jobs, politicians and others, would be sent to Mile 2, let Mile 2 not be reformed. They will learn. They will learn. This is things we have to look at. We just run, oh, they caught them, oh, this. No, we have to be critical about the situation developing. How many people? Now, in 8 years, someone is not being rehabilitated because that person is accused of a crime, that person going through the criminal justice system. They could have been dealt with, sentenced, and from that sentence, depend on the crime, judiciously put through, and that would be a remedy. At the early stage, some of the other people he got to form that gang would have even probably not attended prison. Depends. I don't know what they were charged with, what crimes they were committed. They could have been sent into where they would be rehabilitated to learn trade or something else. Even the convicted hardened criminals should have an environment where the chaplains, be it Muslim chaplains, be it Christian chaplains, be progressive people, be in reformists, would visit prisons and sit with them, contact them. They should do courses in prisons. For God's sake, they are citizens. They will come back to us in society. We should make sure when they come back to us, they come in one piece. They'll come in a better state that they left us. This is what we send them for a correction center. These people have our families. The system failed them. And some of them probably have not been served prisons, but they started the delinquency and all of these things due to the failure of investment in our school, failure of investment in many areas. I'm not making excuses for them. But do we find out to know? If you don't measure something, how can you know the effect of it? Those people could have been moved away from committing this crime or be recruited to commit these crimes. And we come to Abla Jallow. Abla Jallow was among the armed robbers arrested by the police yesterday. He was found at the Serekunda Villa guest house with a girlfriend who was also, another adjective was used, who was taken into custody. Abla was from Bara. When he suspected that the police were searching for him, he quickly took a boat to Banjul and later checked into the Serekunda Villa. You see, again, that's why I say they are not hardened criminals. You know that you look at, most of them would have done something else. But, what they do is matter, let me go and enjoy as much as possible before I go in. Knowing that I will go in. Because they are not hardened criminals, they don't know how to survive outside their houses, homes. Most of these people live in their probably parents' homes. They are not hardened criminals, they go and independently live or do something else. Yes, probably the leader is a little bit smarter than them, but even him, he would not have been easily caught in Bissau. I can give you 2-3 scenarios. I didn't speak to anybody in the police, but I could have given 2-3 scenarios how the police caught him. This was all policing investigations they got caught. And that would not have applied if it was professional criminal. They would not have caught them that easily. That's why we are advocating and we'll look into the other areas. Considering the most skilled members, they said Ablai is considered most skilled members. Ablai was also the mastermind behind some of their operations. He purchased the pistol in Senegal, strapped them to his body to cross Amdalai undetected. Before the gang attack, this thing in Banjul, applied for survey the area. Once he was confident that operations could be proceed, he alerted his accomplice. In the other gang member, Ansumana Jaju and Ivorian National Usman Jait, this thing met at Mile 2, where they became friends after their release. They recruited Ablai and others from the gang and so on. Yeah, we see the role that criminal justice system will play in order to help this. But again, what are the other challenges our police are facing? And I'm saying this. I'll keep on repeating this. I have high regards for our men and women in uniform, be in any institution. I have regards for our people serving any services or institution in that country. But when institution fails, we have to hold the institution accountable. It's not that we are denigrating our service people or anything, but this is the process of making them better. This is a process of making them better, that's why we're doing it. And we have to be critical, and we have to be truthful, and the facts have to be put out so that we can identify the problems and solve them. Now, politicization of the police impacting on service delivery. I spoke to many senior officers and junior officers. And you see, there is a high level of respect and discipline within the police services. I can tell you that. In most of these people that spoke to me because they believe that we can advocate to find the solutions. In many countries, the police would have been very disruptive to the government, very disruptive to the senior officers. But that's not the case in the Gambia. But that is very dangerous too. When people are not showing any signs of their frustration and others, it's like volcanic building up and it was just erupt. Or they will act indifferently in situations when they arise. And these police officers, and we all can see it, and something I don't do often, that a very truthful, but it was highly sensitive article shared with me. I refused to publish it, and I found another way of dealing with it. I feel was more effective. And the period I received that sensitive information would have been very disruptive to come out and voice it out in the media. That's why I said we are very cautious at times when how we do things. We tried. The problem is not solved, but we feel that that impact that it might have, it would be better. But let's be serious here. Until we have a government have the political will, our institutions are not going to be better. We can blame the police as much as we can. We can mistrust the army as much as we can, because of the mistrust is bound by evidence, but bound today by the failure of leadership in reforming that institution for us to trust them. If you have a bad child in a family, it's your responsibility to try your best to reform that child to be better, because you can never cut that family ties forever. The Gambia Armed Forces is ours, whether we like it or not. We can have foreign troops for millions of years in the country, but they will go one day. And even as they are present, we still will have that armed forces there and what they would represent. But if we did not take the leadership and do the need thing to reform them and rebuild the trust and confidence between us and them, we are still keeping a problem of scenario of a bag of potato filled with several other bad potatoes in it. It's a matter of time it will contaminate. But in this case, we are doing injustice to ourselves, because generally, as I said, the soldiers are not bad. And yes, some of them committed, and those people should have been fought and dealt with, but we have not seen that. But they have been rewarded and given positions based on political consideration in the armed forces. But as we're talking about police, and this is what is happening in the police, the failure of this reform due to consideration of political expediency. The police reform we have seen is very poor. It's not a reform. You see, I have seen someone advocating who was part of the police reforms, talking about, yeah, you know, we developed this policy, we developed that policy, we developed that policy. For God's sake, policy alone does not stand. Policy alone will just end up gathering dust. There's a need to develop that strategy that implements that policy. But that strategy to develop that policy, it's not something that we don't have. It's what we don't have is the political will to take that, those people that have the know-how, the knowledge to implement the strategy, to bring about the reforms due to political consideration. You know, if a government wants to keep a units or units within the police to be unprofessional in order to serve their purpose, the priority is to keep certain people in strategic positions to serve their purpose of being loyal to the president, being loyal to the political party of the president or the system. You know what happens? It's just going to fall as pile of cards. This is what we have presently. It does not mean that we don't have the people within the police or outside with this, the police to deliver this sermon. It's sad if I see them going all around the world, bringing so-called expert, come on, brainstorm, conference, seminar, develop, and guess what? Do you see a difference? No. There's no political will for that. It's good to develop policies, and even that policies have to be realistic. When you bring these experts, what you find out is any policy they develop is generic. They just borrow somewhere else. It's not realistically Gambian. And I can tell you, if you have read the security sector reform policies for the Gambian National Army, you think you are not talking about Nigeria. Do you know why? Because most of them is based on Nigeria. Who would take, what do we have in common with Nigeria in any form? And if, these are the considerations we should think about. At the failure of the reforms, this is what he did. And now what happens is the politicization. The president wants a police, because this is our first responders. These are the people that will deal with discontent and any other form, deal with his political opinion on others, to have people in strategic positions to enforce that policy. It's not the policy they develop and put in paper, nor is the policy that's not been spoken of. That's what they do behind. And that's why when you look at the reform, you can see the outcome of the reform, what informed. You see, if someone says, oh, this happened, ask them what informed it to happen. You see, when SFR was doing the lead counsel, that's what he was trying to do. What informed this occurrence or decision? And if you want to understand whether you have a reform, look at the outcome. Whatever it fits in, that's what it chucks out there. And this is happening. The less experienced, less knowledgeable, less ethical are leading positions. And what do we have? They will be effective to a level for what they are put there for. But they are not effective for what they should be there for, to give us security. And even what I said, to a level successful is when the really push comes to shove, they will be off. Because of when the people, policing should be by consent. If you fail, it's just like, you see, policing is like running a business. If you fail to put that nitty-gritty in democraticization, policing, you will fail. You feel you can build a PIU, a battalion of PIU, in order to prosecute your political things, order to demonstrations, order to this, order to that. It's just that because of those people that you are attacking did not realize your weakness, that your weakness is coming together and holding you accountable. And once that happens, you will lose. Just as what happened to Macky Sall. Macky Sall said that this time around, what happened before this demonstration is not going to happen again. When first demonstration happened, until he have to be forced by the senior service chiefs to say that, sir, you need to come and address the nation. You need to release Usman Sonko. If not, what is coming to us, we cannot deal with it. The commander of the land forces moved the troops, the infantry from around Kaula. What around Kaula call again? That region. move them into town. That's when we saw those tankers coming in and repositioning and taking the seat of power. Because if you understand the Senegalese security infrastructure, around Chess, that's where the commandos are. The land forces are by Kaula N region, the Salum region. Now, you have the Marinch, obviously, in Dakar and these things. You have at the entrance of Dakar, you have the mobile gendarmerie, which are just like, they are just the paramilitary. For different reasons. But when it comes to serve, the ground forces need to take positions. And because if they are not going to let the civilians to take over the State House, they would have to. It's in their mandate. They would not kill the thousands of people trying to storm the State House. That's why whenever State House are stormed, the force is so-called loyal. Remember, all these African presidents or dictators, what they do, they take their tribesmen, their people they listen to be the last thing of power. But even those people are not stupid to do it. That's why I said, if those people you trying to use the security forces for, if they know what to do, you will fail. The politicization of the police is really affecting policing for these reasons. And in fact, again, we all know that it breeds injustice. It breeds discontent. It breeds this mistrust between civilians, where advocates are arrested for nothing. And the police, people are invited. Now, again, because of this politicization, people are considered who are not supposed to be considered, and what's happened is causing conflict between officers. And you know that demoralized officers are not good officers. They can be actually very little. And again, as I said, as Gambian nature is, we don't have hardened criminals in our force. Do we? We have some of them who are. But I can tell you, if it was other countries, what we're doing now, you would have seen many police officers working with criminals openly, in fact, as we see in other countries. Go to Kenya, go to Nigeria and other places. As I said, our nature do reflect in our institutions at times. Causing infighting between officers, and the evidence of this. We have so many experienced police officers that have long service time, that have developed themselves, educated in many forms, built capacity. They have served outside the Gambia in peacekeeping and in UN programs and everything. How many of them are retained? After all this investment and after all this work these people acquired, go and find out how many of them are retained within the system. They left. They left, and I can tell you, speak to many of them, they would have loved to serve. But not when you take people because of they are take people who are they're genius, who are in experience and educated to be their seniors. Service. You see, service is different from civilian administration. It's important that hereditary system. To regimentation is very important. What do you see? They retire or they resign and go and do something else. Imagine if we had these people with their experience and knowledge and in all this state, we would have seen difference. Because their character and many other things are far superior to the people they give in these positions. Some of them would stay in the international until the time of retirement, they go and retire. They could have come back and served. But we have seen inefficient, these things been given contracts, extending their tenure in the office when they are not good enough. Example, the deputy IG. What is he doing there? I think this is the second time. Oh, I mean, he's having his disagreement for what? And we have witnessed standing in front of us, fabricating stories about a crime, serious crime done to his own men, knowing that it's not true. What you're doing is in fact undermining the investigations. You stood in front of the building. You have a security advisor who was technically a public administrator. They stood in front of the building to fabricate an entire story that's nothing true about. And when you have all this experience, officers from everywhere else return. But again, there's another challenge the police have. And because of this politicization, there's something called the infighting between sister services. You know, I can tell there will always be rivalry between sister services. But it's not supposed to be bad enough as it is now. Rivalry at times is teasing, is nothing. I tell you one thing, when we were in UNUM, in the army, and we know, because we have siblings who are in the sister forces, but whenever we meet, it's us, we tease them, we do everything as a rivalry. When we go for our road run, when we approach the Banjulin police station, I mean, we sing a song that I don't want to repeat. I don't want to repeat, and it's against the police. But you know, soldiers, that's what they do. But it's not a disrespect to anything. It's just taken as a famine, those kind of. Listen, it's not an ill will. It's not an ill will. But the minute we approach, we change the song to suit teasing them, and they're not bothered. Because at that time, probably they're looking at us, they are even more sophisticated than us. They are police officers, we are just soldiers. Because that's the mentality. That's it. But for now, it's because of the what is different now is politicization. What it does is, the rivalry is because of the service. Now, I can tell you, for instance, drug SWAT. Is it called the drug anti-law enforcement? They are in class with the police. You might not know. But people that follow the security incidents, they're in class. To the extent of, it's affecting service delivery. Immigration is in class with the police. Because of the IGP used to be an immigration officer, and now he is trying to still control or micromanage what's happened at the immigration. There's a rivalry. The SIS, and these are facts. We speak to different people from different units. The SIS, in many instances, there are rivals to the police. To the extent of last 2 weeks ago, I'm not going to talk about the incident itself, there was completely two different briefings from the SIS and the police. The police covering up, the SIS what was really truthful of what the incidents were, or their analysis was factual than what the police was actually covered. But again, that tells you again there's command and control and coordination here for this. But again, you will not realize there is police intelligence and there's a financial crime unit. And all these units, I can tell you, they are fighting each other. Now, it's affecting our service delivery. And this is both coming from the political will, the politicization, and the side effects. Now, we understand what this does too is affecting coordination and communication. But demoralize police officers. Now I'm talking about the rank and file or the lower ranks of the police. You know, there's a big distortion in the police right now. You will hear ranks of commissioners, ranks of inspectors. These positions used to be huge. In a sense, in the First Republic, you have a sergeant man a station. Now you technically have something almost a commissioner man in a station. A sergeant then was technically an operational officer for the police. Now a sergeant can be any police officer. You see, this is our all failure of our reforms. The structures are not even fit for purpose. Now, you have a big layer in the middle to the bottom. And I can tell you many senior officers, I mean, some obviously they have exposures, they serve in the international bodies and so on, they can be okay. But I am talking about officers who doesn't even bother about that. But because of their involvement in crime, and if I said crime, I'm not talking about the armed robberies, but the other crimes, white-collar crimes. The white-collar crimes involved in the drug trafficking, protecting the cattle and all that stuff, are killing it. Those people are not affected by the cost of living. You see, we have to remember what affects one institution is affecting almost the whole institution, because the entire country is affected. That's why when we advocate for good governance, this is it. And you think, why is it dangerous? Is doctors, nurses, teachers, the civil servants, the police, soldiers, obviously it's critical services they're given. If they are demoralized, it affects our life directly. Directly. How many times people will say, oh, I have a recording of a police officer taking bribe. I said, look, I'm not, it's not that I don't want to fight this thing. I said, but look, exposing this police officer, it's sad to say, what is he going to do? For him to lose his job? I said, everybody is taken. Everybody is taken. These people are technically forced to take. They have been demoralized, dehumanized. They are suffering in the streets, suffering everywhere else, blaming them for trafficking. I am not, it's wrong. It should not happen. But do you think they take pride in doing it? I wish you, talk to these people. You think they have pride in doing it? They are human. They are human. And if you don't put your, self in the situation, not many can resist it. And they cannot just walk away. Now, if the president can allocate a nephew 600 million, that's only one loan. That 600 million could have created many jobs. But do you know what job it creates? It created jobs for Mauritanians. That Mauritanian they brought in to be an operational officer, its only known knowledge is to sell in shops. That Mauritanian opened retail shops and load them with Mauritanians. 600 million. I'm not an economist. I'm an accountant. I have business sense. I am sure with 600 million, many youths would have been productive. And the cost of living and others could have effected. This is it. That's why we have to look at things in totality. We cannot just go blaming the police, reacting to the police. Oh, they are useless. They are this. What they do with the checkpoints. What they do, take bribes or asking for breakfast or that. I know it's not big. But what are the push and pull? What are the root causes? And it makes them not do their job, I know. It makes them disrupt traffic, I know. But if we want to ignore the white-collar crimes, failing the institutions, we have seen where the police are saying that we don't even have vehicles. You know why some people don't report crimes? You report crime. your time will be taken. And some officers would see it as an opportunity. It's hard even talking about this, I can tell you. It's really hard in it. The officers would take the opportunity to make something out of you. They will come even to give you development when there's no development. Yes, I know families that look affluent, but they clock it. That all the time the police are coming to say development, they're just looking for, because whenever they come, I have to give them something. And be a woman or a man, you don't want to degrade yourself. Going to, your fellow man, your fellow citizen, your fellow man, to degrade yourself in order to get something from them, to take home, to feed your family. You think they willfully do that? You think that they prefer that? Do you believe they prefer that? Would you prefer that? No. If we don't address these situations, they cannot be better. Even in developed countries, we have corrupt officers with all what they have. But I can tell you, the reason they are far better is because of the accountability at every level. You think if they were worse institution, the entire things are what? You think they would have been the same? If you take Gambians to operate in UK, America, and others, they would do fine. If you bring those Americans to Gambia to operate, they will do worse because of this system. The system needed to be changed, and you have to change from the political way up and down. That's the only way we can address this. We cannot just blame our police officers for the crime. That's why some people don't report the crime. Oh, my stuff is gone. Thank God for that. I mean, that I've not been killed or harmed. Let me try and put barbed wires. Let me try and put CCTV. Let me try and improve my this thing. You are just pushing the crime, but that crime is not solved. That's why people who are affluent, who have leadership, should make sure the country is governed well. Go and see what happened in South Africa. You might think that you build a castle here or you build a fortress. Or I employ a white man and everything. Now you are not even free to enjoy your property, your home. Probably you wanted to have a wall low with flowers. You want to have a wall low so that you can look at the seafront or look at something else. But now you are deprived that. Probably you just wanted to have your close family around. Probably you have built a swimming pool. You want your wife to have that privacy or your husband to have that privacy. But now you have to bring a stranger to act as a guard in your house because of it's not safe outside. But you think that's okay? No. You start driving outside, you'll be carjacked. I know it's not frequent in the Gambia, but these are possibilities. If you stop the building this, it does not take away the crime. It moves the crime to somewhere else. And you will bound to go and visit those places. Probably you go for a christening ceremony, you go for a burial, you go for something else, and you'll be a victim of that crime. Or you go for shopping, you'll be a victim of that crime. You could have been in the bank. You could have been in the Mauritanian shop. That's why I said we have to do more to address the systematic problems, not the symptomatic problems. Now, let's look at this. Finally, I'll say this. A major factor that is missing here is two. It is out. You know, when we talk about resources, we are talking about resources for the police, which is true. But crime management is a very important factor in reducing the need for other resources or to manage the resources. You know, people say, oh, manage the resources. Yes, managing crime would ensure you manage the resources. Well, let's give an example here. And I am happy the Inspector General, IGP, did point at that, or we'll talk to certain retailers to put CCTV or other equipment. That's part of it. But the collection of data, information on the crimes, reported crimes, and unreported crimes. Yes, there is a way to find out crimes that are not reported. Reported and unreported crimes. Look at this data, study that data. You will find correlation in many areas, and this is where you look at it and know how to target your resources in the form of sending personnel. Sending patrols this randomly doesn't fix. The patrol should be intelligence-led. Intelligence-led. If I know that the police drive here every night, you think if I'm committing a crime, I will come to the street? I know, I will go to another street because the police cannot be in every street. But if we collect data, I'll tell you, criminalists will tell you this. It's a habit of criminals. When they're successful, they'll keep a pattern. When there's, and keeping a pattern don't mean that, look, they might just be doing what we call in the young days, dippy-dipper. Dippy-dipper is very common in criminals. Some will just do dipper, and undo dippy. And you can understand all this when you study the crime. That's why crime management is very important. And you can advise the private sector. You can advise certain things to. That's where the community policing tool will come in. We keep on saying this community policing, but I don't think we are utilizing it as we should be. But again, as I said, when people are demoralized, again, you might have all the strategies, they will not work. Because they are human-led. They are leadership-led. If you have the wrong people in position as well, it will not work. That's why I said all these things need to be looked at, but crime management is key. When people talking about, lack of vehicles, yes, vehicles are important. But again, maintaining vehicle fuel and everything else will come to a cost. But again, if you study the crimes happening, you might have a strategy in place that not required vehicles to be running around. Less deployment. And when you study this crime, some of this information might lead to policy change, where police will be withdrawn from doing certain services and recruit, because of it's more expensive to train a police officer, retain them to have all this knowledge, just to send those police to be issuing driving license. How much knowledge does it take to issue a driving license? Why police officers issue driving license? And other agencies could have done that, where you don't need to pay much. You don't need to take a police officer who's been trained to study law, study procedures, and many other things, to sit behind the desk, or you have 10 police officers sitting behind the desk, or occupying an office, to be issuing how many driving licenses a month, or immigration officers and others. All these officers could have served at the front line. But because of, then you know what you need to do. Why do we have police officers guarding certain dignitaries and others? You see, the information you get from this studying the crime reports or the data would have informed a policy where private security companies would be licensed actually for them, in fact, to recruit only ex-service personnel that would be easily reoriented to serve as private security things, and they can do the personal protections and some even buildings, some office buildings. You'll be surprised. Whitehall is like quadrangle of the UK. 90% of the security are made of private security. All the main sensitive buildings, Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, many deliveries is done by private security. Obviously, the quality of the private security are at a level. Be the vetting, be the license, everything is at a level. As good as having a police officer. The only thing they don't have is the right to arrest. But because of the way they operate and everything else, they can get a police officer in a minute if they need it. But they will serve as a deterrent. The best form of security is to deter. To deter. not to be reactive, not to be reactive. Then many other auxiliary jobs would be done by civilians, and the trained police would be utilized in doing what they do. And in order to deter, to prevent, as I said, are many things that needed to be done, from the social justice, from the judicial systems, but again, from community policing we're talking about, entail a lot of things. Community policing, from getting police officers to schools, to many areas that youths will be, to interact, to educate, to identify and collect intelligence, to anticipate crimes and build relationships. These are important in order to avert crimes happening, to fight, and when it happens, to help swiftly to make an arrest. These are things we need to consider in crime management, and these are things we want to. That's why I said the discussion is far more than, oh, this people have it, or that's we should do far more than that. We should be more critical and truthful about this. But finally, as I said, intelligence is the key here. You see, again, the crime management, everything will bound to intelligence. Then the resources we're talking about, definitely need resources. But again, all the other factors needed to be done so that the morale of the police can be boosted and not to be degraded as professionals. That's something we call in intelligence, that's the intelligence infrastructure. It's huge, it's vague, it's huge. But in this nutshell here, what we're trying to talk about, all the areas that you need or in existence, some of them are the part of the built infrastructure that we need to help to fight crime. And those infrastructure, how do we take intelligence from their activities in order to fight crime? You know, when we say, oh, the police, in a nutshell, you know, the police, immigration, customs, the army, SIS, GRA, they are all part of intelligence infrastructure. If there was coordination, a building, this is something that needed to be studied to understand of how do we put this. And you know, when you do this, what happens is they are well prepared to pick up things. I'm not going to get into some of these things because, as I said, we have to be sensitive. We are not trained criminals. But I can tell you, this is where you know about law of crimes. I tell you a case of someone in the neighborhood that committed a very serious crime, and they went to the police. They could not solve this. And I approached the victim. I said, look, I want to help you to solve this crime. This was in 92 when I solved this crime. He said, no, but I said, just let me. I went and spoke to two people. Guess what? We tracked the person and got everything within 24 hours. We got enough information to say that the person force went there, that is out of the country is there. And he was amazed. That's what intelligence does. The two people I contacted, that was the reason I contacted them, because I know what they would know, and it leads to what it leads to. That's why I said this infrastructure is in existence already. There are tons of information, but information needed to be managed to be an asset as intelligence. And the these things have to come together in order for these things to come in. But apart from the infrastructure, there's something called assets. These are intelligence assets. And intelligence assets, this is a very interesting area now. Intelligent assets, many people are intelligent assets with unknowing. You see, they are known and to the operator, to the intelligence operator, he knows who her assets, or his or her assets are. But the assets might not even know they are assets. Some of the assets will know they are assets. Some of the assets, you tell them, I am doing this. It's to your interest you work with us. For this, that. Some assets are like that. And whatever they know, or anything you think that you need to know concerning them, or where their area of operation or work or anything, all you do is you drop. That's what I call you dropped. You come and drop something on them. You don't even tell them the crime that happens. Or you just drop the need to know for them to pick something, and they will relate to you. And you know how human beings work. If you recruit an asset, what happened to them is they feel a sense of importance. That's part of what you have to achieve. To get that asset to comply is make them to feel important. Let them know the role they play for, how important. It is not about monetary gains or anything, but let them feel good about what they do. Then that's why, if that happens, you have to be careful, because what happens is human beings then would like that sense of importance. That's why you have to be careful how you get information from them thereon. It's just as it's not good to bribe an asset, because if you bribe, it will be motive to lie. But again, people feel good about themselves, or they might lie. But to avoid that, as an operative, you know what to ask, how to ask, or what to inform, or drop. Something you drop. You don't even come to him to say that I want to know this. You just discuss something. Oh, today in the office something, this, and leave it there and walk away. You'll be surprised when he comes in. Then what happens? It helps you to assess the information received from this asset. And I can tell you, for every serving officer, you see, one thing in Senegal, the training in Senegal is or French actually. That's in Morocco and it's French law enforcement. Every officer is made to believe that they are intelligence officers, off duty, on duty. They know when they come across certain information where they need to sort of protect that information. Off duty, that sap they would be. That's why they are very effective in fighting crime. This is what we need to. That's why you go to Senegalese customs, Senegalese everything. That's why, again, they like to recruit people in those institutions, the customers and so on, from the security forces. They don't like taking from civilian backgrounds. Now, so many assets that this thing willingly, people willingly. The unknown willingly or unwillingly give you information, you just know how to find it. And now, because of social media, you'll be surprised that many crimes can be solved, or can lead to be solved from people activity on social media. People activity on social media. I have seen someone behave certain way. I reach out to a parent, and when I told the parent, he said, "How did you know?" Because it was true. I said, "I think an intervention is needed." People can't control some of these things. This is the same way when criminals do things so on. You have to know how they behave, and these assets would work. And you know, another part of the intelligence, that's why, you know, when you hear intelligence, you hear the intelligence infrastructure, you hear the intelligence assets, or operators and everything, part of the infrastructure, then the assets, informers and others. But there's something always important in intelligence called communication. Communication. United Kingdom, they have a special department for communication. Always the difficulty is coordination. Coordination. Just like the 9/11, many agencies had bits of different things, but the way they were operating, there were no coordination to get this. This is where the security systems in the UK is far superior when it comes to monitoring. The GCHQ here helps the Americans in picking up a lot of stuff because they are better in coordination. Not that they have more sophisticated distinctions. No, it's the procedure. It's the procedure, how they work within the MI5, MI6, and the police intelligence and other agencies. But the umbrella is the communication, GCHQ. How do you use this? And in Gambia, it's not about getting all these equipments. We can't afford them. but it's developing the old style policing to be a little bit more sophisticated with little bit of input with technology. Little bit of input. We can do that. We can afford to do that. Yes. But when you have the infrastructure and the operators to identify, equipped to know the assets to utilize, that's where the communication comes in and coordinating all these efforts. I'll give you an example. When a crime happens, there's a way you communicate out there, need to know basis, and you find these things. But it's part of the intelligence building. This is how certain things can be easily deducted. A lot of other things out there, then focus on because of the profiling you done and so on. It can be done. Guys, thank you very much. It's taking just 2 hours. I wanted to do it in an hour and a half. Yeah, as I said, this is just a critical analysis. It's not a direct criticism to individual police, and obviously it's to the police itself as an institution. But again, as we spoke about a lot, I spoke about a lot here, and it's looking at it factually as much as possible from experience and the interactions we have, discussions we have, and to understand it. But again, the police alone cannot be held accountable here. This is about governance. This is about leadership. And the political will have to be there in all the cities. And again, crime is not only the violent crime we see in the armed robbery. There's something feeding those crimes, feed other crimes, and so on. We have to fight them, especially white-collar crimes and others. The police, again, they cannot just come in to give us a reactive, dealing with reactive operations and briefing on us. We want them to tell us totality how they're doing to keep us safe. Because again, if you look at it, put it under the microscope, most of these people we arrested are failed by society, are failed by the criminal justice system, are failed by the education system, are failed in many, many ways. They might have been victims of other crimes and so on and so forth. This is all we need to work on. And again, I appeal for tolerance for this criticism. And let the police don't take offense because of people are speaking out. Let them see it. And if they want to have that partnership, they have to create that environment. I say, calling out public to work, there's a strategy and there's a policy position that can be taken in order to encourage people to come forward when crimes happen. But again, a strategy again is when crimes happen, there's ways and means to communicate to get people to come out, to speak out. Thank you very much, guys, and have a good evening. Jai Jindif.